My face currently feels like I've been run through by Tom Stewart.
Puts it to the top of the square. Oh, beautiful little fist in there by Dale. Crucial centimetre moments.
He definitely has a bit of the Belcho spirit. As I have a bit of the Belcho spirit.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the podcast. It was this week, quote unquote, mutually fired from our position after equalisation methods finally caught up with us. This is The Back Pocket. My name is Jack, and across from me, as always, is AFL Appeals Board expert, Alistair.
If I was mutually fired and I still got $1 million,
For the next year as well?
I'd be very happy.
Oh man,
I'd
imagine
be
being
very
paid $1
happy.
million to not coach West Coast.
I probably wouldn't be
I'm currently
cancelling
paid
my
nothing
Disney
to
Plus.
not coach West Coast.
Did you hear him say that?
Yeah, I
man?
did, yeah. I reckon that the few Hungry Jack's franchise stores he opens will pay for the Disney Plus. I reckon he's doing all right. If you've tuned in before, you know how this works. And if you haven't, here's how it goes. Each week, we give 5 3-1 votes to best defenders of the week, based on defensive or intercept efforts, your spoils, your one-on-ones, your intercepts, and sometimes just vibes, for a maximum of 10 votes available each round. And at the end of the season, they are theoretically awarded the Scarlett Silvani medal.
It's a theoretical medal.
It's a theoretical medal. It's been designed, it's been quoted, it's never been made. But it exists. It's like Schrodinger's medal.
I feel like if there was a player that was not high, like a small player, someone who's just
I feel like players
chilling.
who are like accessible enough that they would accept it aren't the players who are going to win it, unfortunately.
Yeah, it would have to be like a first or
What if
second
like
year
Mark
player.
Keane wins it?
Yeah, Keane or like Bodie Euland.
yeah,
Someone like
yeah.
that. Probably not
Anyway,
happening this year.
who's your one vote?
My one vote is to Ben Mackay from the Essendon Football Club.
He was a special mention for me because I thought his first quarter was very bad. But the rest of his game was quite good.
Yeah, I actually think it might have been his best game of the season. I think he carries on a little bit. Like he will... Well, both the Mackay brothers love to flop. But he does play up those injuries and then very quickly get up and take his kick.
It's like when they ran into each other and both looked like they were dead in the middle of the ground in that game, and they were both fine 10 minutes later.
He took some really key intercepts in the game, which is why I've given him a vote. I've probably been a bit harsh on him because I don't think he has played to his standard. Like, he was really
He's
good
been
at
in a better
North,
team and
he's just
seemingly
been...
playing worse. Yeah.
But I guess that's part of the team thing. The team's winning, so that's more important. But he had 6 intercepts from 7 marks. He won both, or at least neutralised both of his contested one-on-ones, and had 6 spoils. Pretty good game, Ben Mackay.
Yeah. He was definitely close to my votes, but just didn't quite get in. My one vote this week was to Mark Keane. He was very good in a loss, and they came back hard at the end. But he had 20 disposals, 10 of those were intercepts, 7 contested. He had 7 marks, 5 intercepts, 3 contested, 4 spoils, 10 rebound 50s, 1, or as you said,
10
neutralised
rebound 50s.
both of his one-on-ones. Had 11 defensive half pressure acts, 475 metres gained, 6 score involvements, and 3 of those were launches. I think he got 2 coaches' votes as well. He was really good. He's having a really good season. From what the rumours are, Collingwood is very much in his ear about getting him back in. So
it would be a surprise because I feel like he's got a pretty decent future ahead of him.
that
at
backline
Adelaide.
seems to be building, and like
There's
they've
work to do,
played
but-
better than their ladder position suggests this year. Whereas last year I think it was the other way around. I feel like their ladder position flattered them. This year I think it's the opposite. So I think that they're a chance to rise up a bit next year, and he must feel like he's part of a core group that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I'd hope so, for their sake.
Yeah.
My 2 votes goes to Brandon Zirk-Thatcher from the Port Adelaide Football Club.
So I didn't give him votes purely because I put, you don't get votes if you knock your opponent out in the first quarter.
I have written here, this was his best game for Port, probably helped by the lack of Norton. So,
Yeah.
So
But he was very good.
5 intercept marks, 5 spoils. He had no contested losses from 4 different contests.
Yeah.
I think he looked more at home in that game. Obviously helps that he had... I mean, the Dogs still have tall forwards. Lob went up there. It's not like he didn't play
Lob
on
moved
anyone.
forward. Yeah, but he got to play on Lob instead of Norton, which is
Yeah, it's a difference.
the dream.
But yeah, it's probably his best game for the club since moving over. So
Yeah, I totally agree. I always thought that he was meant to be the floating defender, and he's been used as the main defender at both clubs now, and that's not helped him. And I think for the parts of the game where he got to be that floating defender, it really showed that that's his best role. It's just unfortunate that they have Aaliyah there, who is also a floating defender.
And if he plays Radically,
Yeah.
who is...
Also a floating defender. That's their issue. But yeah, no, he was very good. My 2 votes this week was to Cal Wilkie.
okay. Well, then I should reveal that Cal Wilkie is my 5 votes.
Your 5 votes? Oh, okay, yeah, fair enough.
I've just written here, I do not care what the stats say. He is the reason St Kilda won.
Yeah,
and they beat
I-
first on the ladder. So, 5 votes.
I wrote that he played like a slower role than usual
Yeah.
and used it the same way that Freo did to slow down Sydney's momentum swings, and he was so good at ensuring that they maintained disposal when Sydney were on top. Like,
Yeah.
his decision-making and calmness in the back line was such a big part of their game plan. And as well as that, he had 26 disposals at 92, 3 intercepts, 4 contested. He had 14 marks, which is a big part of, like I said,
losses.
slowing down the game. 4 out of 4 one-on-ones, 12 pressure acts, 484 metres gained. He was really, really good.
I think whoever delivers the stats to David King and Lee Montagna put it pretty simply that the last 2 matches Sydney have lost have been because the opponent has possessed the football.
Yeah.
If you play full on against Sydney, they will likely beat you. You need to possess them and be calm. And that is what St Kilda did. And it was in part because of his 14 marks and
Yeah, and I think
7 rebounds.
like GWS, Geelong and Carlton all before these games were really good examples of that. Like they were playing that way and at times they got on top of Sydney, but when Sydney went back the other way, they did it twice as hard.
Yeah.
Whereas neither Freo nor St Kilda allowed that to happen. We talked a bit about Freo stopping the momentum before it got too far last week, and it felt like St Kilda was able to do the same. So,
So that's why I gave him 5. So suck it,
fair enough.
vibes.
Who was your
3 votes?
3?
I don't know if we've given him votes this year, but Tom McDonald
Okay, yeah, fair
from
enough.
the Melbourne
We've
Football
mentioned
Club.
him a few times. I don't
Yeah.
know if we've given him votes.
Again, I've written down here body of work has been really impressive, so that probably helps elevate him a little bit, which is probably wrong for me to do, but he had 22 disposals, 7 marks, 3 intercepts, 8 score involvements, no losses from his 2 contests, 6 spoils and 2 rebounds. I think he looks really good down back. And obviously we've discussed how funny it is that he's playing down back and Petty's playing up forward, considering how poor
But he is
Petty
good
has
down
been.
back.
He is good down back.
Absolutely. I did read somewhere about his back not allowing him to play forward or something like that as well, they reckon.
That's
'Cause
interesting.
he had that back injury that kept him out for a while.
But how does that...
Yeah, right. He still manages to anyway, but apparently he just like about leading and ground ball stuff and that kind of thing. So
do you want a defender who can't pick up ground
No,
balls?
not
That's
really.
a really interesting one that
Yeah.
you've said. But
hey, look, I'm just a message.
hey, I thought he had a good game. Obviously, opponent, blah blah
Yeah.
blah. But I thought he was allowed
maybe
to
why I
just do
didn't
what he
notice him
wants.
as much because that game was bleak.
Yeah, but from what I did watch, I kept going, "Oh, Tomlinson took it. Oh wait, no, that's Tom McDonald."
That's confusing, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. My 3 votes was to Colby McKercher.
Yep. I didn't give him votes
Yeah.
because kick-ins.
Yeah, but he was all back line.
Yeah.
He had, despite kicking, still had 37 at 34. I said 84 at 34%. Can you imagine? 2 of those were intercepts, 2 contested. He had 6 marks, 13 rebounds. He had a 1-on-1 and won it. He had 606 metres gained, 5 score involvements, 2 score launches. He has such good footy smarts, which is obviously why they're letting a first year take the kick-ins. It
Yeah.
really helped cut through getting out of the fence. And I feel like the forward pressure from Gold Coast couldn't make up for his disposal, like out of the back line. So, that's my
I think it's also huge that he can fill that role and allow them to have Sheasel as the half forward, where he's
rolling into the
actually
midfield.
having an
Yeah.
impact. So that's awesome. Yeah, he played really well.
They've obviously won other games this year and gone close, but that was the best game they've played. Full game, anyway.
Yeah, I was
the
going to
first half
say
of the Collingwood game
the
was
first.
sick.
I would say the first 3 quarters,
And the
they
last
still kicked
quarter-
4 in
The
that
last quarter of the Melbourne game as well. But
3rd quarter. So
that was their best full game performance anyway.
yeah,
Who was your 4 this week?
Jack Buckley.
My 5 was Jack Buckley.
Okay, fair enough.
Because I wrote, funnily enough, the exact same thing about Jack Buckley as you wrote about Cal Wilkie.
Yeah.
Which is if he doesn't play that game, they lose.
Yeah.
He only had 14 touches, 4 intercepts, 4 contested. He only didn't win all of his one-on-ones, but
No.
he kept Kenough to 1 goal.
5 out of 7, still pretty
5 out of
good.
7, still pretty good. That's a lot of one-on-ones. And Carlton were pounding it in there for a while.
Did you see him? Did you see his spit the dummy? Did you see that bit?
Had 13 spoils, which was massive. Had 2 score involvements and 3 tackles as well for the big man. But yeah, if he doesn't win that battle with Kenough, they don't win that game.
Yep. And I think this is the second time he's completely clamped Kenough. It was the Coleman winning game last year. He kicked the first 2 of the game or something,
Yep.
and then completely shut down by Buckley. He's got his number. Allegedly, Kenough rolled his ankle in the warm-up. So I don't know if that influenced at all, but he looked like he was getting pantsed by him.
Absolutely.
And I mentioned it several times.
You compare that
there
to-
were no efforts.
Oh, yeah, you did. But you compare that to how much Mackay belted Aaliyah.
Yeah.
In the other contest up there. Like every time the ball went down there, Mackay was in
Yeah.
control. Buckley was the opposite effect. He just monstered him. So,
Yeah.
that was my 5. So my 4 then, I guess, is Jordan Ridley.
Yeah, I thought there was going to be a Ridley vote in here.
Yeah, I thought he was really good. He
preferred-
similar to what I said about Wilkie. I think he did a good job of slowing the game down when Collingwood started to get control. Like he really marshalled the troops and kept things measured. He still had 525 metres gained, 7 rebounds. He had 15 marks. 2 of those were intercepts. 25 at 92. 5 intercepts there as well. I was really impressed with his game. I don't think he got a coach's vote, but it doesn't matter. In watching that game, it really felt like Collingwood were coming back at the end there, and he had a really good second half when they were in control of the game. So, props Jordan Ridley. Probably helped that Redmond killed Myercheck.
Not great for Collingwood.
His last effort for the season was pushing someone off of him on the goal line with a torn pec.
Which was really impressive.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Knowing that it's torn,
Yeah.
good stuff, Myercheck.
I shan't have been able to do that.
That's votes. My special mentions, I already said, Ben Mackay, BZT. Callan Dawson and Aiden Core did a really good job together in that back line. While McKercher was getting... Sorry, McKercher. Comben was getting thrown around by Sam Day. Because Max King had 1 goal from 3 disposals or something. Ben King, the other one, sorry.
I was going to say Max King did not play.
Mitch Duncan was my closest miss in votes as well.
I was wondering, when I was looking through everything, I was like, there's no way Jack gives votes to Mitch Duncan.
I couldn't do it. But yeah, in that first half, the way he set up play off that half back line was immense. And it's been since I panned him out and said he'd finally been caught up with by the 2 old 2 slow. He's probably had his 2 best games in a season and a half. So
I remember you lamenting the fact that he was good last week. You were pissed about it.
It just made me look stupid. And then he was good again this week. So that was my special mention. Did you have any others in here?
Nah, I didn't do special mentions.
Quick thoughts of the weekend's games.
All right.
Collingwood Essendon.
Yeah, pretty good win from Essendon. Collingwood season might be shot through injury, not through form.
Yeah, and they've got a few rough games coming as well,
Yeah.
Which is brutal for them. But yeah, injuries is just... With Myercheck out now...
I think, shockingly, Mason Cox back for them will be huge. It gives them some structure.
I agree. And then in a couple of weeks, hopefully, Dan McStay is playing.
Yeah.
They've confirmed half a game this week in the VFL now.
It's just one of those things that your heart's going to be in your mouth anytime he jumps or goes near the ball for quite a while. So
yeah, Quayne are out. I said during the game, if they had
McCreary's out for 6 weeks.
To at least run with Merritt, it might have been a very different result. He's so important to their structure. But North Gold Coast.
Really good win from North. Really poor from Gold Coast. They are not a serious side if they can't beat a bottom 3 side away from home.
Yeah. We said it was a true test playing Collingwood at home and
winning.
Then North away
And losing.
It proved the rule, didn't it? Embarrassing, frankly.
It really is, and it's similar to Adelaide of last year, where they were only really winning at home.
Yeah.
Although they had some games that sort of went against them, umpire-wise, but we won't talk about those. It'll be interesting to see how they follow that up.
Very funny, Sydney Adelaide, round 24 again this year.
I can't believe they've done that.
The AFL is just like...
I mean, it's probably not going to make too big a difference.
That Canadian fixturing guy who probably has no idea about that game from last year, just being like, oh, yeah, we'll put that one on. Port Bulldogs.
Huge result
for both teams.
I think it says more about Port than the Bulldogs.
We know Bulldogs.
We know the Bulldogs are just going to drop a game every 3 weeks.
Port's midfield showed what it should be doing most of the time.
Well, I think putting Horn Francis up forward is huge. Yeah,
he's still a lot of CBAs though. Because I was keeping an eye on the actual midfield minutes, and he was still above 65% midfield minutes for the game, but he was clearly floating forward.
Who are you checking that?
Champion data.
Oh,
I was at work.
I forget. I forget that you can do that.
But you look at the other 3 having 90 disposals or 100 disposals just about between them, 99, and then he had 20 and 3 goals. They were just enormous. So obviously Norton going down didn't help, but Treloar still had 32 and 2 goals, and Bond had 25 and 3.
That's exactly what happens when Bulldogs drop a game like that. Their midfield still fires.
But everything
it's
else
unfortunately those role players.
They're missing Jones desperately.
And is he due back anytime soon?
No. He'll be back if they make finals, I think is the...
Eesh.
And Waitman, we talked about it a few weeks ago. He's so important to their structure. Yeah. He's wildly underrated, I think.
I think he's one of the best small forwards in the league.
Yeah. And
on paper, you'd have to say it's like a Stengel Hill. But I think Waitman's
But
really, really
Waitman, I think he just adds so much to their structure and gives them energy and movement. So,
Yeah.
That wasn't a very quick summary. Cats Hawks.
Yeah, sad. Poor from Hawthorn, really. There's no world in which an informed team should have been beaten by what? 50 points by a team that is
Flaky
admittedly aging and flaky.
Yeah.
So
I think it was shown that the big bodies, and they obviously Stewart being in the midfield helped that, but the big bodies in the midfield, Hawthorn's kids just had nothing to answer to it. They were just bullied around it all day. So
yeah.
GWS Blues.
Wild game.
Game of two halves, but like
Yeah.
in different bits.
Yeah.
First quarter and last quarter all Carlton.
Yeah.
Second and third all GWS.
And I think there is a huge difference if Wiedering doesn't get that cork.
I totally agree.
I think Jesse Hogan doesn't kick 5. I mean, he looks like he was in good nick anyway, so potentially he still kicks a couple. But I think that, and just the lack of control in the midfield was a problem. So it'll be interesting to see how Carlton adjust, and interesting to see if GWS can keep the form up, considering they did fall off again. So
I heard
who are they playing next week?
Tom Green talking about it.
They're playing
During the week, and he said that like it was such a summary of their season in one game. Like when they were at their best, they looked what they know they should look like, and when they were at their worst, they got completely cut apart.
And it's interesting because the inverse happened in the Carlton GWS fixture earlier in the year, where GWS looked excellent in the first half, and then Carlton kicked like 8 in a row and ended up winning that game. So
it just is what GWS have been this year, right? For better or for worse.
Yeah.
Even what the game they beat Geelong at home, they were 8 goals up just before 3/4 time, and then won by 3 points. So that's been their year. Freo Richmond.
I can't really
Did
say
we talk
much.
about that one?
Go Freo.
Richmond's bad. They're on the
Flag
bottom.
mantle. Let's go.
Equalisation measures get teams. Melbourne West Coast, kind of same thing.
I feel like this is not the game that you sack Simpson over.
Not well. I don't think
it's a result of the game.
I think it's because of the Hawthorn game, and they just had to get through the away game and get back to organise everything before there was another home game.
Sure.
The Hawthorn game was the damning one, right? They had an almost full-strength team at home against a pretty young Hawthorn side and got pumped. So, St Kilda Sydney.
Like I said before, really good game from St Kilda.
Really,
They're showing similar to, and even though Collingwood went to win the flag last year, it was around this time where Port, Carlton, and another side showed that blueprint of how to beat Collingwood. And their finals were very close as well.
Last 6 in there, something.
Did they win their one? Then they went down to Geelong without Murphy.
Well,
I can't remember.
They beat Geelong. But
it was close though.
They did. It was when Cameron got that handball 5 metres over the boundary line.
One of my favourite non-goals. So yeah, I think it's interesting. I don't think it's doom and gloom for Sydney. Their team is stacked, and they've got Mills to come back in. Anyway, that's a quick summary.
Like I highlighted there.
We're not good at this.
Expected score a few weeks ago. Like the fact that they've been flying on expected score all year. And that like we haven't had to talk about it because they've won by more than that anyway.
I mean, scoring shots 11-16 to 13-6.
I think on expected score they won by 20.
Should have been more.
Yeah, so like
honestly,
it's finally everyone returns to the mean, they reckon, and this was the game where it happened to them, unfortunately.
It's really hard to be too harsh on Sydney when their 2 losses are by, well, not including the Richmond one. We're just saying that's an
even
outlier.
if we include that, it's by 8 points.
2 losses by 1 point, 2 point, where they outscored their opponent in scoring shots by 10 plus.
And they lost to Richmond by 5 points. So they've lost by a total of 8 points this year.
28 scoring shots to 24 against Freo.
Yeah.
And it was ridiculous against St Kilda. Almost 30 to
I think there was a lot of rushed against Freo though, whereas against St Kilda it was genuinely just they didn't do it.
Don't ask me. Last one, Brisbane Adelaide. Did I watch this game? I don't remember.
Goat time slot. Yeah, we watched it.
The worm broke again.
Oh no!
Sportsbet really need to fix their fucking app.
Yeah, and retire.
You can't retire a company.
Shut them down. Pops and flops.
Oh yeah, I did actually write those down again.
Yeah?
Yep.
What are your pops?
Oh, I'm doing pops first.
All right, let's do pops first.
I just said GWS comeback season defining stuff.
Yep.
Do you want me to do all of them or just one? Caleb Windsor was good, and I think Tholstrup was good as well.
Tholstrup was really good, my boy. I think that he should get an exemption from the AFL to wear his speed dealers on the ground. I think that haircut, it's not quite the same without the ridiculous orange speed dealers. What was your second pop?
I'm not agreeing with that. Second pop, I just said huge response for Hinkley in front of a home crowd.
Yep.
That's really good.
I just put Colby McKercher.
Yep.
What a return. They left him in the VFL for just long enough to get through a full AFL game. What was your third pop?
Just North post by.
Yep, that's fair. Mine was Rankin ducking under Andrews and Andrews eating shit.
That was very
'cause
funny.
It was so funny.
That was very funny.
Also, had he not done that, Andrews also wouldn't be playing this week.
Yeah.
He was going to hit him in the head.
Should have let him hit him.
Andrews
to be honest.
is very dumb, and he is their captain. So, and their old captain was Zorko, so they know how to pick him. Flops.
Flops, I just said sacking Simpson with 10 games to go, just let him play out the
Everything
season.
to do with Simo.
Yeah.
Stupid.
And just the media, after being served by him, then going and just doing more shit.
Or now they've got a nice front page tomorrow.
Do they?
After everyone in the entire AFL world heaped them with shit, which they totally deserve.
Well, not just them, or Fox Footy with their secret, Simo gave an evil message to Harley Reid. Like, shut the fuck up.
Harley Reid posted a whole bunch of, like, support of
Positive
Simo
shit.
on-
Like, fuck off.
My
Media
second,
sucks.
My second flop was Mitch Lewis's ACL.
Not good.
He's so talented, and it's just so sad not seeing it around it. People thought it was a concussion, and then he got cleared for that. But I don't
like,
understand how.
also,
'cause he
he
didn't
has
notice
ACL.
his knee snap because he was cold before he hit the floor.
Yeah, poor guy. He really is so talented.
Yeah.
And I think for years I've been like, this is Mitch Lewis's year, back into it.
I was really hoping this was his, like, Kenough year,
Yeah.
where he got to play the last 6 games of this year, do a full preseason, and then just take the world by storm next year. But down he goes again. What was your second flop?
Well, kind of works. Well, I mean, age isn't exactly right, but if he comes back from his ACL, he'll be
25,
26.
6.
Well, he'll probably not play at all next year, but
Still time to be good.
yeah. Like, at the end of his career, Kenough won't be as high as other goal kickers in his league because he missed 2 to 3 years because of that. And the same thing will likely happen for Mitch Lewis, who has, well, goals-wise, it's not great yet, but I think he has the potential to.
He could still kick 400, 500
Yeah.
goals.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What are we on? Flops?
Flops.
I've just written 2 more. Collingwood alarm bells with injury and Bulldogs. I've just written, why do they consistently do
They're
this?
just the Bulldogs, aren't they?
Yeah.
Max Gaun's, well, now it's not foot anymore. I've learned it. Was he snapping the bottom of his shin bone off? But that's brutal for Melbourne. I think he's so important to them, especially now they don't have Grundy there to...
Every backup ruckman they've ever had, they've gotten there and they're like, this is our future. Bruce, Grundy, gone.
Yeah.
Jackson.
Question from Hawaii Paul 2005. Who would win, 1992 Carlton VFL Reserves or North Melbourne's AFL team? Or, now I guess, Gold Coast away?
1992 Carlton Reserves.
That was what they were. It said early 90s. I just reckoned 92 was a good number. What was it? 80s. Early 80s. That'd be 82 Carlton Reserves. Even worse.
The North team. The North team win.
I find the idea of, like, 169 centimetre mids from back then trying to compete with LDU very funny. It's such a dumb thing to say. And Ruse was paid like $1 million to fix North, and now he's just living in Hawaii throwing pot shots. Anyway, I've returned a segment.
Bear with me because I want to have a look. I want to have a look at. There's usually a Wikipedia page for the grand final.
For the reserves?
Nah. For the. Did they do emergencies back then? No.
Oh, right. You want to see who the emergencies were?
Let's just see who from the actual Carlton 82 grand final team would go all right against North.
They probably had a 185 centimetre fullback playing on Larky, which would be funny.
They had Bruce Dool at fullback, 185 centimetres. And Kenny Hunter, who was 183. I reckon Buzz,
Kenny
Peter
Hunter could take
Bozzastow would do good. Mike Fitzpatrick in the ruck at 192.
Jerry just like walking past him. Imagine how much Jerry would outrun him by.
I reckon Wayne Johnson would go okay, but yeah, if you've got 4 players from the main side who are good enough probably to play against that side, North are winning by a shitload.
Like, imagine Larky just like standing at the goal square and just like marking the ball up
How
here.
tall is Larky? 200 and something?
I think he's 198, 200.
I'm looking it up.
Yeah, big boy. Yeah, no, it would be it would be funny. I'd watch it, especially because they're all 60 now. But
I'd love it if we could time travel. He's 198. Did you know that exactly, or did
No,
you just make that
was
up?
a-
That's 2 in a row. It would be very funny if we could take the North Side back to 82 and play them on a 1980s quality ground and see how they go.
Yeah, they'd struggle with that part. Mm-hmm. Colton McCurtain trying to run down the wing and take bounces, and the ball just going that way.
They hadn't even invented handballs back then.
That was the flip pass. All right, I brought back a big footy. Which board is this from?
I do like this segment.
So which big footy board is this from?
Usually really good at it.
There's a double enter between every one of these lines. They also put an exclamation mark in there instead of an I to get around the swearing filters on big
Oh,
footy.
I like that. So they're
Shit
an
coaching,
intelligent person.
Shit team selection, shit on the ball, shit pressure, shit disposal, shit defending, shit effort. End of comment.
Part of me just wants to say the Bulldogs.
It's Hawthorn.
Hawthorn? That's interesting. I wouldn't think they'd care that much.
That he was very mad.
Yeah.
My second one is
All of that's probably true for that game.
It is true. Yeah, they were very bad. The second one is we should tank now. Best to get an easier draw, draft picks, decide who wants to be there for the next tilt. We need to make some hard calls now. A fair few teams have overtaken us.
That's interesting. So that implies it's someone who is ahead of that bottom like 5 or 6 pack. Who's tanking?
Who's tanking?
It's either Collingwood or the Bulldogs.
It
right?
is Collingwood, which is funny because they don't have their first pick, so tanking is
pointless. They get a better second round pick.
Yeah, woo. In this draft. Exciting. Anyway, that was the two I wrote down. Most of the other teams that lost were just like, oh, well, we can recover from that. And Bulldogs, I just feel too bad to go on the Bulldogs board.
There's been some doom posting on the Carlton board. It's been very funny.
I saw a Bulldogs fan on Twitter just saying, last week put such a stake through me that I don't even know what day we're playing on. I'm pretty sure we're playing Carlton, but I'm not 100%. This is fucked.
Yeah, I've been there. But my team wasn't 11th on the ladder, one game out of the 8 when I was saying that.
And like looking pretty good most weeks. Like that was bad on the weekend, but like they've looked really good. Anyway, who's your game of the week next week?
I've got 2 written down, and one of them is controversial.
Okay.
I've written Carlton and the Bulldogs.
Yep, I think that's really interesting because of like both of them wanting to bounce back.
Bulldogs and Carlton, sorry, other way around.
Yep.
Carlton haven't had a home game in 3 weeks. And West Coast versus Brisbane.
Okay. You want
Dead
Cat?
Dead cat bounce. It's happened to Brisbane before.
In the GOAT time slot.
I wonder what position it was on the ladder, but it was David Teague's first game.
I remember it. Yeah, they've copped a couple of dead cats.
I think they've had at least 2.
I saw a few Brisbane fans, in fact, saying, why does it always happen to us? Because it does seem to.
It's usually team plays Geelong, gets pumped, play Brisbane the next week, win.
I was about to say the same thing. Mine, I think, is Melbourne Essendon.
It's huge for Essendon, isn't it? Because they've just proven themselves.
And huge for Melbourne, because if they don't win this, oof. Like I know it's so close in that bracket. But
It's really hard with no.
Gawn.
I was about to say Jones.
Petrarca.
Oliver still out of form.
Oliver was pretty good on the weekend.
He's still out of form. He's not Oliver right now.
No. But yeah, they're just they're having a rough one. I looked into the. I feel like I already told you this, but I looked into the Dimmer hating Dockland stats.
Oh yeah.
And thanks to Glicko for this one because I know he has like
Thanks,
historic
Glicko.
stats on hand.
It's not the same as shout out Emlyn Bruce.
Not the same. Shout out Emlyn Bruce. So I looked up his I asked him to check how many they were favourites in. So they were favourites in the one that they won when he said he hated it when the curse started. They've been favourites in 7 of the 9 since.
And they've lost all of them.
And they've lost.
They drew one, didn't they? Yeah.
Impressive for him to have managed that, especially after being kissed on it with his 95% win rate as a player there. Played in a pretty handy Essendon and Port teams though.
It's pretty funny to me that he can't win there. He took it with him.
He did, yeah.
I'm pretty sure Gold Coast won there last year, didn't they?
I think so, yeah. I don't think Richmond won there though.
I can check though.
This year.
Richmond haven't won many games this year,
No.
so I doubt. Well, it could still apply to them. Can he curse 2 clubs?
I don't know.
Gold Coast. Hold on, I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
You just keep going.
I was just going to say the Simpson thing, obviously, we already talked about being so badly handled, but, like, the press release was so weird. Like, no thanks, Simo, no... Like, and I know they had a conference coming up, but none of that. Just a 2-paragraph, we have agreed to part ways. No when, no how. And then the presser was...
They didn't know if they were having him there or not. Ironically,
Yeah.
Gold Coast beat Richmond at Marvel Stadium last year.
That is funny. But yeah, and then there was like the
That's the only Marvel game they won last year.
you know, and Simo's going to do a farewell game this week for Luke Ryan's 100th game, and then Simo's like, I didn't
Luke Ryan plays for a different club.
Liam Ryan's 100th game. Sorry, Luke Ryan's played more than 100 games too. And he goes, yeah, I don't know if
We haven't agreed to
that. He's not doing it now. Confirmed.
No, he said no.
So Jared Schofield's taking over, who seems like a pretty knowledgeable.
It's
coach.
an interesting
I've heard
one
him.
because he is in the alleged front running
Yeah,
for
which
the
is the person you
role.
don't want to take
You
over.
don't want them to take over. My thing to West Coast is do not hire an ex-player of your club. It does not. I don't have the exact stats on it, but it does not seem to go well.
No.
I think of Brisbane being in a rough spot when they got Voss in. I think of David T going to Carlton.
Sam Mitchell seems to be doing okay.
Sam Mitchell is his third year. He's
Might be more
still
struggling. Yeah.
still bottom half of the ladder. Just
Well,
lost
like
to
I put together
Geelong.
for our Twitter the ladder of teams that play against top 13 sides.
Oh yeah.
And Hawthorn looks a lot further off the pace.
Is it 4 and 8 for them?
When you look at that, let me bring it up here. Hawthorn is 3 and 8
3 and 8.
with
So
a
yeah,
percentage of 74.
I
So like they've just handily been able to beat the bottom sides a few times.
which is where they're at.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think Sam Mitchell is one that could potentially succeed, but it may also not.
Yeah.
We're very early in that, even though we're probably 3 years in. Did he coach their COVID season? Maybe this is his 4th year.
Yeah, I think he's done more years than that.
Yeah, that feels weird. But yeah, I think that they need to run a process. They need to include people like Gian Siracusa and McWalter, who did really good as Richmond's caretaker coach. I think he was actually hard done by.
I
but you
did
just
write
don't
down
wanna
here who
hire
was
them.
your guess for coach next year.
I can do multiple. I think
And
the
I
front
said
runners.
Hansen and G and Syracuse were 2 for me. I think G is too handsome to be an AFL coach though. Like you know when you see like the European, the Euros in the soccer, and there's these like well-dressed men with nice haircuts, and you're like, oh, that's
a
G.
manager.
Yeah, like most coaches look like former players.
Yeah, but I feel like there's a silver fox thing going around.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
mean, Adam Simpson went completely white.
He
so
did. COVID years changed Scotty when his wife bought that skincare business and made him take care of his beard and stuff.
yeah, I think Dean Cox has to be favourite, and not from he's a former player. I think it is
Well respected.
John Longmire has the Swans humming so well. It would be Collingwood-esque to kick him out just because they don't want to lose Dean Cox. And Dean Cox may be happy to stay assistant, but if he gets
Well, Cox is their strategy coach too. He's not the ruck coach. He's their
Yeah.
actual
Yeah.
game plan coach.
Yeah.
So,
I think he's number one. I think Ash Hansen is doing really good stuff at Carlton.
100% coaching record currently
That's true, but
from one game.
I think he recently stated with the jobs that were going around last year that he's looking at being assistant
For a bit longer.
until this sort of run is done.
Yeah.
I think that Graham has good chops. I think he looks good, but again, he's the assistant. He's the caretaker coach. You generally shouldn't hire those. Has there been a successful one ever? Don't think so. Gian Siracusa looks good. I think is it Carousella?
Blake Carousel as well.
He hasn't been given a main job yet, and I feel like he's done enough assisting at this point.
Yeah.
Obviously,
There's still Grigg, who's gone up now to Gold Coast, but
I don't think that's
he's
gonna
very well
happen.
respected. And Stephen King, who's now at Geelong after
Yeah.
leaving Gold Coast, he was in the running for Gold Coast job. Obviously, was caretaker.
I think if you've taken an assistant job and you're only there, it's your first year there. It's
You're not gonna
very
move.
unlikely it's going to move.
Maybe Daisy Pearce can do it. She's already there coaching the women.
I think it would be a very, very forward day when we have a female AFL coach. I think it could. I think it should happen.
Yeah,
but-
I think it should and could one day, but yeah, unlikely now.
What was I going to say? There was one more thing. Coaches. Nah, I've lost it. Don't worry about it. Just do a process. Do a proper process.
Yep.
Don't rush it.
Don't do a Ross Lyon and just make him demand
You have
doctor
been at
interviews.
the bottom for 4 years. Reach out to everyone you can. I know it sounds insane and they won't say yes, but reach out to Chris Scott. Reach out to Chris Fagan.
I've seen a lot of media people being like, you just have to.
Just ask. And if they say no, move on.
Yeah.
Because if Chris Scott said, yeah, I'll come over to WA.
You lock that in.
Fuck yes.
He is overperforming with his Geelong list at the moment.
He absolutely is.
It's just coaching. It's except for a couple of times when you've been like, what are you doing in the coaching box, Scotty?
I think the other one is,
you talked about,
and crazy enough, imagine if you could wrench Bevo away.
Oh.
He took a very youngish list through to a grand final.
Doing crazy Bevo stuff with that West Coast team, that'd be great.
Yeah. They need some more Bevo types.
He has to grow the moustache back to start, though.
His first point of order is getting Anthony Scott traded from the Bulldogs to West Coast Eagles.
Players like Jai Cully would be playing for sure. Right up his alley.
What was his... Greg Clark would be redrafted for sure.
Oh, and who's the other one? West? Yes, he'd be straight in.
Yes.
Bring over West from the Bulldogs and then Connor West back in the side.
I hope Tim's not listening to this. He'll fucking kill himself.
Anyway, you mentioned how bad they've been for a few years, and I found it really funny. I saw a bunch of media outlets being like, they sacked the performance manager and replaced the CEO, and now it's Simo. Who's really to blame for West Coast record? And I was like, it's the equalisation policy. This is by design. West Coast have been good for so long. This is meant to happen. Richmond are down there too. This is meant to happen. Sydney obviously only had the 1 year in the bottom group, and Geelong dropped out last year. But most teams drop and they come back up. That's just what
Collingwood
football's...
had a drop before they bounced back up.
That's what you're meant to do. It's not a shock that West Coast are down there. They took a big swing at making finals again with Kelly, and they... COVID happened. That ruins a year, especially when West Coast relies so much on home ground advantage.
It's so apt because the same thing happened to Collingwood. They swung with a whole bunch of first rounders for players like Dane Beams, and I forget who the other one was. But they missed out on almost 4 first rounders, and they dropped out with Buckley and had to part ways, and they got a really good player manager in and bounced back up. They still have one of the oldest lists in the AFL. Is it the oldest?
The oldest, yeah.
I'm not sure. But West Coast also have an old list. And could potentially bounce if those young players play to form. So they probably haven't taken as many first round picks as they should have during this period, which is the rough part.
They gave a lot for Kelly.
But
had that season gone differently, were it not COVID affected, they made 5th already.
Yeah.
And they got beaten by a Geelong team that was on the rampage, and once again got stopped by Dusty as they did during that patch. But that wasn't... It's been made out to be this big mistake, but they were that, and then they were 9th the next year. It wasn't like they just completely flopped off the earth after getting Kelly.
It was... I think it's been... It's surprising that they haven't turned it around as much as they should have. I thought this year maybe they would.
There was a false dawn, wasn't there, at the start of the year?
But
I think.
It's really strange that COVID season seems to have sucked the life out of all of those players. Jack Darling, Andrew Gaff, Tim Kelly for a while. He's been better. Elliot Yeo finally has come back to form this year after a couple of years of being off.
But they just can't get it all
McGovern
to
and
work at
Barras
the same
have been
time.
in and out. Obviously, Allen's been injured more often than not.
I
Yeah,
also think, apropos of nothing, I think Simo's press conference was great, and I think that in an awkward situation where he had to deal with Pike basically begging him to coach on the weekend, he handled that well. He handled the media well. He was funny and smart and all the things that people have known him to be the whole time, and gave a whack to the West that they fucking deserved. And then they had a tantrum and then got blown up by all the football media, and now they are... The stuff that they get, the player news and stuff, is going to dry up now. That's they burnt so many bridges by chucking a tantrum. Their name is mud with so many people for that. So it's a bold decision. They're just behaving like 15-year-olds trolling on the
papers.
internet.
Do
Does
people
it?
buy papers?
No. The West has been plummeting for a while, and this is their way of trying to get attention. But it's
I just see the headlines online. Does anyone actually buy the paper?
No, and no one reads the West headlines because you have to pay for it to just go somewhere else to read the same news story, because the West don't have anything fucking exclusive.
Archive.org or whatever it is.
Anyway, shut the paper down. Heaney?
Oh, we haven't even talked about that.
He's off to the appeals board tomorrow.
Is he? I wouldn't be surprised if he got off. And to be honest, that would be great for my fantasy side.
Yeah, same. Look, on paper, I do think 1 week is correct, but on precedent, it can't be.
Not in a season where Jesse Hogan's been let off for punching someone in the face.
Butters has been let off.
Butters has been fined 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating, but he also got off for a...
Zerk Thatcher did the same thing Heaney did on the weekend and was fine.
There's just this weird thing with the AFL that they only seem to find the ones and like the ones that get media attention.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it because no one watched Brandon Zerk Thatcher? Is that? Well, I mean, I did, but is that the problem, or is it?
It was the same thing, right? Like,
I just don't get it.
He was trying to like find out where Norton was behind him, and he flung an elbow back without looking, and it copped him in the face. I don't. Anyway, I'm not campaigning for Zerk Thatcher to get suspended. I'm just saying that you can't.
I think we're either campaigning for Heaney to get off, or
I think that based
like
on
Zerk
everything else
Thatcher's.
that's happened this year, Heaney has to get off.
The headline for the Norton concussion is Norton concussed by innocuous elbow.
Innocuous. Webster's nose broken.
Where's the innocuous on the grading?
Webster's nose broken by innocuous backhand. Yeah, I also think the AFL dug themselves a bit of a hole by grading it as low impact and intentional rather than medium impact. Because if Sydney can get it as reckless or careless and also argue precedent from other ones, the low impact makes it a fine or nothing. When I would argue that the amount of blood that came out of Webster's nose, I think you could probably fairly call it medium impact.
I'm trying to get up the video of the Zerk Thatcher thing, because I don't think I remember seeing it. Why is the internet just being so slow?
Yeah.
Never mind.
On the other note, on that night, I think Rankin had the fastest tribunal hearing I've ever seen due to having the worst lawyer of all time.
Very funny. I know he illegally bumped him, but he didn't mean to.
I don't think he, meant to do it badly. Sure, it was off the ball, but so bad. Not that he was ever getting off. It was a weird challenge.
It's slightly different.
MP that launched the wider investigation into the AFL drugs policy, also a Wilkie, came out with more ammunition against the drugs policy. His claim this time was that the family of a player told him that a crime gang sent a picture of the unnamed player to his parents and demanded they pay his drug debts immediately, or that they would destroy his son's reputation. And then, quote, the man is no longer an AFL player, but was on a club's list at the time. Which, admittedly, I feel like his future would also be ruined if the AFL named and shamed people with drug use. What
does he want?
I don't know. He wants to be right, I guess. The wildest unproven claim is that at the age of 18, he, quote-unquote, witnessed senior teammates smoking ice pipes.
I didn't even know you could do ice pipes. I'm not a drug guy, so... Is that what the kids are doing these days?
Apparently. Well, it's what senior players were doing a few years ago.
They were doing cocaine vapes in the change rooms.
Look, one, that's a wildly preposterous claim. Unless it was Didac era Collingwood. Two, again, isn't this the point of the AFL's medical policy? So that he still has a job and doesn't just become a no longer employed person with drug debts?
I think the...
you can't stop people from becoming drug addicts, right? You can do as much as you can culture-wise and protection-wise. The clubs can't monitor these people every day of their life.
But at the same time, they work in a environment where they do drug testing, right?
Yes.
So they should be expected to attempt not to do drugs.
They should be expected to attempt not to do drugs.
I could do ice every day and I would not get fired from my job because they would not drug test me.
It's the same.
So, it wouldn't affect me.
That's where I love when it's the regular person. It's I think you mean mining workers.
Yeah,
the regular
people
person
who put on high-vis jackets.
I've worked in many offices with people who I know were fucked on drugs most days. Many people, fucked out of their minds.
Literally, no hard know if the work listens to this. I literally talked to someone who ripped a
Sava Radicalia
before they called me.
My old job, if you've ever tried to take out an insurance policy with
Sava Radicalia,
you've spoken to someone who's high at some point. That's not slanderous.
That is your old job.
That's my
Nothing
old
to
job.
do with me.
Nothing to do with you. And I said take out a policy. Different departments. Anyway. Also tradies?
You gotta cut this whole section.
Also tradies? I don't know, man. Anyway. Back to the AFL.
I forgot what we're talking about.
The Australian Football League. Is this a false dawn for the Roos again, or are they improving now?
Who?
North Melbourne.
Oh, they got good players.
They do have good players, I agree.
One of our mutuals recently said, boy, they're going to be good in 2 years, so they must be. He's always right.
That's got to be it. Yeah, they had 2 wins at the start of last year, though, and then...
How many wins they got this year? 3?
Yeah, they had 3 last year, 3
improvement.
this year.
Season's not over.
Season's not over. They could beat Sydney.
They're not going to beat Sydney. If they do, at the SCG, alarm bells.
I saw someone that we know or don't know, but we often see the tweets of, which is my kindest way of putting that on Twitter, made an outlandish statement about St Kilda beating Sydney.
Yeah.
And they are now walking a very long way later this year. My other one I saw was that someone said if St Kilda beats Sydney, they will drink a pint of their own piss every day from now until the end of the AFL season. And a lot of people have screenshot that one and been posting it all over the internet.
I would delete my Twitter.
You got to leave now. You just don't say things like that.
I've said some things.
I've said some dumb things, and thankfully I've been right.
North play Sydney, probably going to lose. They play Carlton at Marvel, expected to lose probably. Geelong in Tasmania, interesting, probably going to lose. Richmond at Marvel, very good chance to win that. West Coast in Tasmania, very good chance to win that. Bulldogs at Marvel could go either way. Hawthorn at Tasmania could go either way. So they could potentially get 4 wins in the run home.
They could do, yeah.
If they end up on 6 or 7 wins, that's a huge improvement.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think we just tick them off and say,
they're on the rise.
well done, Clarko, despite all the weird fucking kooky shit you've done this season.
Well, as soon as he stopped saying slurs, they've started winning games.
So they put him up in the box where he had to coach.
Oh, he's just saying the slurs to people in the box now.
Yeah.
That's it.
Who are North's assistants?
I have
Poor
no
people.
idea. Like, genuinely, I have no idea. Like, I know a lot of assistants at other clubs. I have no idea who's in North's box.
That's funny, I'm Googling
Is
it.
Anthony Stevens in there?
I don't know.
I've still got that soundbite of someone saying Clarko loves it in the box.
Lee Adams, Xavier Clark,
Of course, Lee Adams. Yeah,
Jed
yeah.
Adcock, Damien Monkhurst, Michael Barlow, Adelaide Tom Lynch, Emma Kearney, Adam Markin. That's about it. No one I've heard good things about their question.
Clarko loves it in the box.
Who said that?
I don't remember.
Why do you have that on speed dial?
Clarko loves it in the box.
What are you doing? End the podcast.
I just recorded
It's
it one
getting
game.
silly.
Anyway, yeah, it would be good if North could do that. The other thing I was going to say, one, partially moving in between the two. Speaking of Tassie games, Hawks Freo in Tassie this week is massive. Freo have had some bad times in Tassie before, not including Siren Gate, which was also a bad time, which they ended up getting the points for that one, but only after threatening to take the AFL to federal court. But the Tassie Stadium plans were announced this week. What are you about to
I wasn't listening to a single word you just said. I thought the podcast was finished.
Yeah, I was going to talk about Tassie quickly. I was saying Hawks play Freo there this week, which is a big game.
Yep.
And then I was going to say the Tassie Stadium's been announced.
Yeah, the wooden
It's
stadium.
got a roof on it.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll
They
happen.
reckon it's self-cleaning.
They're not going to play cricket there because there's a roof.
No, it's a glass roof. But it's not glass. It's made of a special
It's
glass
glass
that
and
doesn't
wood.
fry people underneath it.
But also, hail. It hails so much there.
Doesn't. It rains and hails less there than in Melbourne, Perth and
It
Adelaide.
hails more in Tasmania than anywhere else in the
Yeah,
world.
you reckon?
Including Greenland.
Everywhere in the world. Greenland. I think
Yeah.
it hails in Greenland. I think it
Snow.
snows.
But snow is hail, if you get a big chunk of it.
David Snow, former Buckman.
Is that team even going ahead?
Yeah, well now it is because they've announced the stadium. That was all I needed. That was the deal.
But the stadium, is that actually going to happen?
Yeah.
Is it actually going to have a wooden roof?
Well, it's got a wooden frame. Like under the glass. The wood's inside.
So it doesn't open?
No, it doesn't open. It's a permanent roof.
So they cannot play cricket there?
They can because it's a permanent see-through roof.
It's going to be 55 metres high.
And it had to be increased in height because of the cricket. So it was originally
What happens if a cricket ball hit the roof?
5 metres lower. And because of Cricket Australia, they took Hawkeye there. I don't know how that helped, but like they took the guys who make Hawkeye there, and they did a bunch of.
I don't know what Marvel TV has
scans?
anything to do.
Shut up. They did a bunch of scans, and they said, well, the roof needs to be 5 metres higher. So they made the roof 5 metres higher. If the ball hits the roof, it'll be exactly the same rules as it is.
Well, I don't know the rules
at
because I'm not a
Docklands.
cricket head.
It used to be a dead ball,
Yeah.
but now because T20 cricket is all about hit runs,
Smacking.
it's a 6.
Oh. I thought they would do maths, like they would check the trajectory
They
of
could,
the ball.
yeah.
They
because-
should do that.
And the thing is that most of the time, if the ball hits the roof, it's not gone for 6.
Yeah.
It's gone too high, right? Like, if you're hitting the roof and it's going for 6, that's the biggest shot, like, ever.
How many cricketers do you reckon just can hit it 55 metres straight up in the air?
Not many. That's a long way up. I think it's like a 37-metre roof, but it's still a long way up.
I read 55.
You're at 55?
No, I'm sticking with it.
All right. I saw some people complaining there's like this, there's like a memorial hill up the top, and they're like, it's going to ruin the view, and it's like, okay.
I personally liked seeing stadium
Yeah,
in distance.
I agree.
Anyway.
It looks, the plans make it look nice. It's going to have a nice wooden exterior. Anyway. I think, people make fun of Perth Stadium. I think Perth Stadium is fine. I think it's just in a shit spot. I used to like Subi.
I liked Subi because I used to work right near and I could walk across to it.
There was like
I mean, I don't work there anymore, so it wouldn't
there was
benefit
like
me.
multiple train stations you could get there from, and
Yeah.
there was bars nearby, and
But
not
you get
just
off at the wrong station, it's not a big deal. Whereas
one bar.
getting around Optus sucks.
Oh, it's horrible. Like Dad
No
said,
parking either.
Dad said he doesn't want to go because his knee's too fucked to walk all the way from the train station.
Remember when we parked on that gross muddy hill?
Oh, over near the casino?
The casino. Like, it's...
There's no good options.
What they need to do is they need to do it like an American stadium and build
Oh, yeah, just like-
8,000 million car
I love the
parks
idea of
on
just like
all
mentioning,
sides.
looking to an American person, and be like, have you heard of a train? And they're like, what do you mean? No, everyone's going to park. And like, we're going to park so far away. Like, if you get there late.
That's American culture. You can't do anything without a car.
No, you can't.
So
Well, I mean, you can't really hear either. It's fucked.
I'm going to do it fun.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I self-drive people everywhere. I'm like an anti-car guy with a car. Like, I'm anti-car-centric world, but I have a car because I live in a car-centric world. You know the guy in the well. Oh, you criticize society. You should participate in it.
Somebody sounds like? I've never listened
I
to
don't
it.
know. That's how I imagine him.
It's a picture. It doesn't
Could
have
be
a
Jordan
voice.
Peterson's voice. Anyway.
No,
I'm not doing
it's more
it.
Kermit the Frog. We're not
Anyway,
doing
that's
that
probably
either.
a good time to end the podcast.
When you are doing impressions of memes that don't have voices, end the podcast.
we will see you.
Probably end it when Alistair stops listening to you as well.
Yeah, when he's like, Tasmania. We'll see you next week.
Bye.